Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Outer Rim Rambling with myself, the Outlaw Adam Neeson, joined as always by the Jedi Knight Danny Brown. Danny, what's your favorite Tim Allen noise?
Ooh.
What's your favorite Tim Allen movie? There's a question.
Oh, favorite Tim
You
Allen
can't say Galaxy Quest.
movie. I was thinking Galaxy Quest there, but probably Toy Story. I'm gonna go with Toy Story.
Ah,
Yeah, because Buzz Lightyear, like, if I still have my original Woody, but I
mhm.
don't have an original Buzz, and I don't know. Maybe I need to find a Buzz Lightyear to have with my Woody. But yeah, I'm gonna go Toy Story. What's your favorite Tim Allen movie? And you can't say Galaxy Quest.
Um, Wild Hogs.
Because of the hot tub scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, what's the one where he gets his penis out? No, that's Galaxy Quest.
That's Galaxy Quest. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I enjoy bits of stuff he's in, like
Mm.
growing up, sort of like he was just always around. Like the bit in Santa Claus when he brings
Oh.
his kid to Denny's.
Yeah.
Like bits that I always remember. Like I don't like Santa Claus the movie because it's
You
sort
don't like
of
the Santa Claus?
halfway through it becomes I don't like Christmas movies, but
Ah,
it's
well.
like Tim Allen comedy. Halfway through is the oh, but sure you're Santa now, isn't that nice? Isn't that lovely?
But what about Christmas with the Cranks?
Oh, I'm
Where,
all about it.
yeah, all about it. I mean, because not only do you have Tim Allen, you've also got, the
Do
one
we?
Marcel
Do
and
we?
Dewey from Malcolm in the Middle actually coming back into something. You know what? We should probably ask our guest what his favorite Tim Allen movie is.
Not,
Uh,
I'm going to ask, but before he can say, I'm going to say it's Jungle the Jungle.
oh.
But we'll introduce our guest before we can get straight into the fun. Joining us today from across the border, it's hands across America, but it's hands across Ireland.
Hmm.
Our fellow blabber that likes to talk Star Wars on the great Isle of Ireland. It is a man who everybody in the community should know, and everybody in the community does know, because he has a fantastic foot podcast himself called Blabba the Hutt. It is Gary O'Toole. Gary, sir, how are you? And what is your favorite Tim Allen movie?
Hello, lads. How are you? I'm gonna have to go with Toy Story. I think there's
Hmm.
something probably similar to Star Wars in that it's that childhood nostalgia which you just can't seem to shake off. And I suppose with the way things are going with Star Wars at the moment, it's something that we still gravitate towards and hope for is that feeling of nostalgia. But shout out for the Santa Claus as well. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Great movie.
Santa Claus 3 with Martin Short should be a winner, but
Mm.
isn't that the one with the robot Tim Allen? And he's all like plasticky looking?
Uh, oh, I think so.
Here,
Imitation Tim Allen.
Yeah.
someone
Tin Allen.
someone in the community put the noise over the Amana Man in the Grogu trailer.
Oh God, yes.
Oh, please, please.
Actually, I heard he is cast as the voice of the Amanaman. Man.
The
Timalamaman.
Malamana Man. Fantastic. But Gary, thanks very much for joining us.
No, thank you guys. It's a pleasure. It's nice that we're able to have an episode on the island of Ireland. So it's always great. And congrats to you guys as well. You've been going strong, and I think you just celebrated quite an important milestone very,
Hmm.
very recently. So good on you guys. Doing this is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. So it's just nice to be able to come on and chat Star Wars.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. That's what it's been about from the start, and I think that's what kind of keeps our ball rolling.
Yeah,
The Instagram following has been fantastic, but like we do it for the love of the game, not for like the following or
yeah.
and well, we do it. Obviously, we want to do it because people want to enjoy it, but like we mostly just do it because we enjoy chatting to each other and chatting to everyone that we've talked to, including your fine self. So, Gary, go on and take us back to where it all began for you. Where does your love of Star Wars spawn from, and how has it spiraled into Blabba the Hutt?
Uh, I was a 90s kid, so sort of coming up on when the prequel era was really starting to come on strong. That was when I sort of entered the game. I suppose my love of it was something of a want to understand. So I come from a scientific background, so I'm quite logical and methodical in the way that I do things, and which ended up giving me a career. I work with airplanes. That's what I do. I work in aviation. So I always sort of had an interest in the Force, and in particularly then when we start talking around the midichlorians, which there's so many stories of how that was inspired by real life, real life events or real life happenings, such as potentially diseases or disorders or things of that nature. So that was sort of how I really got into it. And then it just so happened growing up, I was quite good at building things with my hands. So that's how a further Star Wars leap happened then when I became a member of the 501st Legion, and where myself and Danny know each other is from the Emerald Garrison. But slightly just before that, I was somebody who always appeared on various board pages. I'm not going to name names, but people could take a guess at it. I would appear under an alias, and somebody might have a question about, oh, there's a gap in this storyline, or there's a gap in this plot and this lore. And I would sort of reverse engineer and I would break down that there's not actually a gap if you look at it from a certain point of view, if you'll pardon the pun. So that was sort of how things developed. And then I got into Blabba purely by chance. And Blabba was started by my good friend Jamie, who was at the helm of Blabba for quite a while. And then a number of years ago, he handed over to myself and my co-host, Kate DeBinko. Kate is in Arizona. She's over that side of the pond. So recording with things like this is a little bit difficult. So we have to pirouette around a lot of different timelines. It's a little bit of a delicate balancing act, but we make it work. And sort of ever since then, it's just grown and grown and grown. I think it's gotten to the stage now where people know us for being a little bit different. We're obviously in a very privileged position in that we have very good relationships with the likes of Penguin Random House, Del Rey, Disney Ireland. They're very, very good to us. And we don't take that for granted. It's something that we have worked very, very hard on. The one thing that sort of irks me a little bit is that our Spotify episode lists appears quite low, but we actually had a number of older lore episodes which we lost when we stopped hosting the website. We hope to get them back one day. So we have been around a lot longer than people realize, but it's just over time we've sort of built a bit of a reputation for looking at Star Wars a different way, and we're not sort of in that mainstream pathway of being from the US and looking to make money out of headlines or dropping exclusive. That's not what we're in it for. What with work, the work myself and Kate do, we're sort of our lives are busy enough without having to have this become a behemoth and maintain it 24/7. Because, like yourselves, you'll no doubt know the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes. People do not see that at all. So that's kind of a long-winded way to go about it, but effectively, I was a fan, and then I became a super fan. And now, as people have seen in the live panels, when we go into the level of detail that we do, people question our sanity a little bit now, which is both a blessing and a curse. Let's be honest.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned there about, you kind of got involved with costuming, as you say. You're a member of the 501st. You're also a member of the Elmo Garrison. That's how we cross paths. But do you want to talk a bit about the costumes that you do? You're also the communications officer for the
I I
501st.
was I was
You
the
were,
PR
yeah,
officer at one point. I took a
yes,
step back from that a number of years ago. There's always changes in
yeah.
the hierarchy, and staff members change over and rotate. But yeah. So my costumes at the moment is I have a New Hope tie. I have a New Hope TK, so a Stormtrooper, and I also have a Jawa as well. If you take the TIE pilot armor off, you can be an Imperial officer. It's technically two costumes in one. So, yeah, predominantly dark side costumes, as you would imagine, with it being 501. So that's the costumes that I have. I don't wear the Stormtrooper too much at the moment, quite simply because it's just so uncomfortable. It looks amazing and it brings storytelling into the real world. It's storytelling in its purest form. But for anyone who's worn one or anyone who hasn't worn one, that thing is so uncomfortable and you cannot see 2 feet in front of you. So the TIE pilot or the Jawa is usually my go-to.
Yeah, that's I've sort of resorted now. I've sold on the Sand Trooper that I used to have, because it just like between the lockdown weight, meaning I couldn't really fit comfortably into it anymore, and just
Yeah,
the like you're standing for a lot of time and it's not a comfortable thing to move in, so you're still quite a lot, and just the weight of it, especially with the sandy, and you've got the back to pack
backpack. Yeah.
on, you've got the big rifle in your hands, and I was like, I don't have the time or the comfort for this right now. So I passed it on, and now I primarily just do Jedi because I'm pretty much in my jammies swinging a
Mm-hmm.
lightsaber about,
Yep.
but yeah, so from there then, You mentioned that you are working quite a lot with like Penguin Random House and Del Rey books, and for a lot of people, I suppose, there's so many facets of Star Wars fandom, but you've kind of found yourself in quite a nice niche of that world of the books, the literature of Star Wars.
Hmm.
Would you consider that to be sort of one of your main loves of the world, the galaxy far, far away?
It absolutely is. And right off the bat, I would say, for a lot of people, their Star Wars is solely what's on the big screen. And if that is just your Star Wars, that is fine. Let's be honest. Can I swear on this podcast?
Of
Oh
course you
yeah.
can.
Most people could not give a shit about the books, the games, the animated series, nothing like that. For them, Star Wars is on the big screen, and if that's the case, so be it. But yeah, for me, the literature is a huge thing. So, my favorite character in all of Star Wars is Grand Admiral Thrawn. I wrote a college paper on Thrawn because that's the character I sort of relate to in terms of using the noodle much better than I use anything else. But yeah, the books has been a huge love of mine for a long, long time, and it's something that I think I have said for the last 5 to 6 years of our live shows, in that the strongest part of the Star Wars fandom is the literature. Because there have been so many avenues that you can go down and you explore so many different characters. Again, pardon the pun, from a certain point of view. Well, maybe not everybody. I don't speak for everyone when I say this, but for me, I get tired of seeing the same old thing rehashed time and time again. So for me, it's a case of, I think there's just something that a book does, that when you read something on the page, you have a different interpretation to how five other people in the room might read a line, or how they might interpret something that's said. So that is a big love for me, definitely, particularly the Thrawn novels. I was one of the lucky few to be given an early look at Project Luminous, which eventually became the High Republic, which was sort of the time period where people will be familiar with the Acolyte, but this was basically the very, very beginning of all that, which was quite different to what the Acolyte was. I think that's what part of the fallout was for those of us who had been right there from the start of Project Luminous and seeing what come in the Acolyte. A lot of us were left going, hang on, this isn't what they were building towards. So it was a little bit of a shocker more than anything else. But each to their own. Some people liked it and some people didn't, which is par for the course. But yeah, for me, the books are huge. In fact, I'm staring at a couple of them there. I have the first ever copy of the first High Republic novel. I think it was the first one to ever reach Ireland. It's just sitting on the shelf there. But if I was to take the green screen down, you look around my room, it's basically a lot of Star Wars books. And when we're off air, I'll show you something that I'm not allowed to show publicly about books.
Okay, okay. Exciting. Were you excited to meet Charles Soule at DCC there recently?
Absolutely was. So at DCC, we had Charles Soule and Will Sliney, who are an amazing combo. When we talk of Charles Soule, for anyone who hasn't read the Vader comic series, please do yourself a favor. Still to this day, it is effectively the gold standard in mine and a lot of others' opinions in Star Wars. It was just a phenomenal run, and then the great work Will Sliney did with the Kylo Ren comic as well, which the artwork was sensational, and that's no surprise. But yeah, Charles is a big one for me. He's sort of one of the last big players I have to interview within the Star Wars book world. I've interviewed a lot of his friends and a lot of folks in his circle, but he just seems to be one that I just can't pin down. So, but meeting him was absolutely amazing. And, it's a huge opportunity for himself and Will Sliney, because they brought out a comic series which has been picked up by Seth MacFarlane's production company to be turned into a show. So, from that side of things, obviously Charles being a powerhouse, but at the same time, Will Sliney being right at the forefront as well. And Irish artists at the moment are doing incredible work in Star Wars, and long may that continue.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we had Reese Hannigan on the podcast recently. We're hoping to
Yep,
get a couple more of, Irish artists who've been on. Will Sliney was one of our very first guests ever.
yep,
So yeah, we're very much on board with you for being like, yeah, up the Irish for all the content that's coming
100%.
out.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, if we could get Charles Soule on the show as well, it'll be a very good day for Star Wars fans all over the island. But I suppose going into Star Wars podcasting, as you said, Blabba the Hutt kind of you're now in kind of a 2.0 phase of Blabba, but how did it kind of come together for yourself, for Kate, for Jamie? You know, Adam and I have talked endlessly about how I featured on another podcast with him, and we were talking about Phantom Menace, and we were just like, hey, that was fun. Let's do this all the time.
Hmm.
But how did Blabba start out for you guys?
Um, Jamie had started quite a while before I kind of got involved, and then he was with Kate, and as usually happens, you start interacting online, and I had been doing sort of a couple of guest appearances on the on a couple of shows in, like, let's say a human encyclopedia section where the speciality topic was Star Wars or a particular area of Star Wars that would delve into. And I think it just so happened that sort of they liked what I did. That, again, as I said, I'm quite logical and methodical in how I approach things, and I would take very sort of complicated, complex ideas and break them down into real, easy to follow, small size pieces. And that just evolved then into getting more and more involved with Blabba, and the trend just kind of, moved along. Then we sort of gained a reputation where we started putting on live shows, and that evolved into becoming effectively media outlets. I was blessed that I've been part of the media covering a lot of the Star Wars Celebration conventions, and I've been lucky enough to host a couple of live shows at Star Wars Celebration, various ones, and at conventions around the world. So it's sort of what started off as a hobby has effectively become an unpaid second job, if you like. But even though it's described as Blabba 2.0, we've stayed the same. It's basically a case of we're not in this for scoops. We're in a very privileged position, as I've said, where there are people who trust us with sources. We're lucky enough that we get to see things that other people don't, and we're in that unique position where we're sitting there going, I would love to talk to you about all of this, but I have to keep my mouth shut. And that's sort of become a bit of a cautionary tale as well, because in the past we have seen sources get born not by us. But the way you look at that is, let's say there's no other sort of podcast in Ireland, if you like, I'm putting that on bunny, which is solely Star Wars. We don't look at anything horror, we don't look at anything else outside of that. It is solely Star Wars. And if something was to leak, let's say, around these parts, the first place people are going to look, or the number one suspect on their list, is us. So, we take that responsibility seriously. Could we drop, news and headlines or stuff that we've heard? Yes, of course we could, but that's not us. That's not what we want to do. It's like you guys said, we just want to sit and chat about things for the love of it. That's the way it is.
Mhm, mhm.
Mm.
So, talking about the love of things, I think, Adam, it's been a while
Mm.
since we've talked about the love of things that are recent in the
Mm.
galaxy far, far away. Is it time that we bring something back?
It's time for some galactic gossip.
Okay, so what have we not talked about? There's been a lot we've not talked about because when was the last time we did galactic gossip, Adam? It was like what? I'm gonna say it
Um,
was probably like October last year.
we were like, oh,
Bound to
this
be
this looks good, whatever it is, but I can't remember what the fuck it was.
Starfighter. It was probably when we talked about
Oh,
Starfighter and Sean
let's start.
Squeezy.
Yeah, started filming.
Yeah,
I have a nice wee list of stuff here, Danny, that
excellent.
people will be like, I wonder what they think about that.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the big one, sort of, and it's not really Star Wars, but it is an industry story. Affects Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Disney exits partnership with OpenAI after tech company discontinues video generator Sora.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it was a lot of hubbub, there's a word, a few months ago whenever Disney said they were investing $1 billion into the AI company, and said that they would have had access to basically all of the IP from Disney, including Star Wars. And a lot of people rightfully got annoyed because it's sort of the AI world has been a bit of a clusterfuck. Where at points now we're at a war, a real war in the world, and we don't know if leaders are dead or not because we don't know how many fingers they have. So realistically, we don't really want an AI world where Darth Vader is doing the doggy. Although I would like to see that. But now that we have a new CEO in Disney, with Josh
Josh
D'Amaro.
D'Amaro.
Yeah, lo lovely guy, lovely man who's in charge of was in charge of the theme parks and now is in charge of.
Should have been in charge before Chapek, but they deemed him too young.
Yeah, well, yeah, but he's a guy who has his head screwed on, and it seems that with this, it might not have been his decision, but it's definitely a great opening move if it was his decision.
It was his decision. He stated from the get-go, AI will never replace artists as long as I'm in charge.
Ooh, lovely.
Yeah, yes,
Well,
I kind of jumping ahead of me here regards stuff we talked about at Dublin Comic Con, but yeah, this is basically was a huge part of it.
oh, we'll go.
So
We'll jump into it now. Well, what's your thoughts on the whole Disney AI debacle?
AI has its uses for certain things. Now, I'm predominantly vehemently against it in many ways because I have a lot of friends who work in the film and animation industry whose jobs are effectively could be taken by what's going on with AI. So, vehemently against it in that sense. It has its uses in science, medicine, and a whole lot of other industries where it could do some good. The issue is that there's not many control measures or standardized parameters and procedures in place for AI. It is the next big industry, and we sort of have to deal with that. But in terms of the industry that we're talking about here, vehemently against it. Could it be used to supplement some things? Possibly, there are some perhaps actors who down the line may sign over their rights to their image to be recreated via AI and things of that nature. And if that's the case, that's their decision. That's fine. But I think it has to be taken on a case by case basis. We just don't know enough about it at the moment because it's constantly evolving. And for somewhere like Disney, after all that we've gone through, I think it's the right move. I think you're sort of seeing a Disney 2.0 in some ways, regards the way they've sort of reset. And it's no coincidence that in Disney, they've brought in Josh alongside a very, very experienced person in running businesses. That's quite similar to a certain LFL change that we've recently had as well. So it's no surprise to see that follow suit in the way it did.
Hmm.
mhm.
Yeah, especially with just relating this back to Star Wars, Galaxy's Edge and Batu West is seeing a complete change in
OT
timeline.
characters returning.
Yeah, which you thought you would never see. You thought that Disney would never give up the game of being like, no, this is all canon. Whereas now they're sort of admitting it is a theme park and people want to have fun. I'm hoping that East sort of stays a bit more in canon. There's stuff there that I think is more unique to Florida. To have Kylo Ren, to have people like Val, sort of floating about. It is fun that you would have an experience going to both parks rather than both parks being the exact same.
Yep.
But in terms of using AI, we've spoke before about AI maybe being used for James Earl Jones's voice, with Vader. But if anything, over the years, like there's plenty of voice actors who have done Vader that isn't James Earl Jones that is just as fantastic and never misses a beat. They will put their own spin on it, sure, of course,
Hmm.
but I don't need I don't need James Earl Jones. I'm a grown boy and can understand when an actor passes away that another actor can step in and replace them.
How will I send emails that sound professional without my AI? No, I do think I agree with you, Gary. Like it can be used as a supplementary thing, but it shouldn't be used to replace jobs. It shouldn't be used to just do your emails for you. But yeah, and it's one of those things. Well, I think it takes away even just in general for like say even like our logo, like I loved being able to reach out to my mate and artist Johnathan Sung to ask him to do our logo for the podcast. It could have been very easy for me to go on ChatGPT and put in a prompt to be like, oh, I need a Star Wars smuggler type and a Jedi Knight sitting at a table drinking with podcast mics. But it gives me great delight to be like, no, I commissioned that from my good friend and from a very talented artist inspired by the artwork of Genndy Tartakovsky, and it just yeah, it means so much more than just getting a robot to whip it up. So it's good to see that Disney are kind of taking that, art should be done by artists rather than feeding a machine to try and duplicate and replicate the hard work of others. And yeah, hopefully it does sort of stay that way. But do still thank your chat GPTs if you're using them, because when they rise up and kill us all, you'll be the last to go. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, we don't want Skynet happening. But I
exactly.
mean, if we're talking about this world now, I'm not comparing it to AI in any shape or form, don't get me wrong. But the same argument could potentially be had and has been had down the line regards the volume technology. If we
Mm,
start becoming over reliant on the volume technology, as amazing as and as incredible as it is, I don't think there's anything that replaces a true location shoot. Like I think anyone who's seen Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, he wanted sets, painters, carpenters, you
mhm.
name it. That's the way filmmaking should be.
Yeah,
So I think
absolutely.
like the same argument could be made for if we become over reliant on the likes of the volume stages. That could take away from a lot of the real magic of film regards on location stuff, which it's just not the same in a being in a studio. It's like when you hear Ian McKellen talking about he wasn't in the room with any of the guys. He was literally just talking to a screen or a ball or whatever it was. I mean, that's got to be a horrendous experience.
Yeah, I love the video that follows up from that though, where they like made up his like little personal tent and made it
Yeah.
all like nice for him. I was like, oh, that's so sweet.
Hmm.
Yeah. Hmm.
But speaking of movies using practical effects, segue, Danny, segue.
Segue, segue.
Ryan Gosling calls scene with alien creature one of his favorite scenes to shoot. Now, this is Star Wars Starfighter, by everybody's favorite director, Sean Squeezy. And it's been coming out recently that they've been using a lot of puppet effects. Um, Tom Cruise turned up in a helicopter and interrupted the scene.
Delayed. Yeah.
Yeah, what if just that's the story you want. That's who's that? Turn that helicopter off. Oh, it's Tom Cruise. Um, Gary, what's your sort of thoughts on Starfighter? I know we're basically a year away, and we have Mando and Ahsoka and all, but is taken away from the whole sequel trilogy and moving on to something in the timeline that is completely new. Is that exciting to you?
For me, it is, yeah. Like I said, I don't want to see the same things rehashed, again and again and again. Nothing wrong with that as such, but I think for me, the most exciting thing is that there's a chance for us getting things right on the big screen. We've had the animation scene go very, very well. We've had the small screen go so well that the sort of main player is transitioning onto the big screen, which I know we'll come on to. And I think it's a case of this is the area where they have to start getting things right. There has to be quality over quantity now. And I've had this discussion multiple times with colleagues. In particular, we had my good friend Mark Van Olen on from the Virtual Cantina Network, of which I'm a member and co host of the Intergalactic News Desk. And what we talked about was they have to get this right for the simple reason, whether you agree with it or not, James Gunn taking over DC has created a platform where they have planned out the next 10 years and they have put a sequence of events in place. Like, for example, if an actor plays the animated version of the character, they voice it, they will play that in live action. That's the way it goes. Now, I'm not saying DC will be a success right across the board, but in the sense that everybody loves a shiny new plaything, this has to, I think, force Disney to get their ass in gear, basically. And Sean Levy, whatever that dude touches, just seems to turn to gold. So excited about that. In particular, the cast as well. We're looking at Ryan Gosling, Mia Goth, Amy Adams, Matt Smith, Aaron Pierre. So they're putting together a real what's the way to put it? A real experienced crew in front of the camera. Actors who have been there, done that, and we're probably coming off other productions and we're just ready to dive head on in. It's described as a standalone adventure with an original story. Again, the three of us could see that in completely different ways. So I think that's what makes it exciting as well, is that we don't know too much. And like Mando and Grogu coming to the big screen, it is uncharted territory. So that's sort of the most exciting thing, but I would say we are approaching it with a little bit of trepidation as well because we're under new leadership now. And as I discussed with Mark as well, it's that Filoni and Lynn being in charge now, which we haven't talked about, we can get onto, but it's a case of Do we hope that they can lead a multi-billion dollar corporation to succeed? Yes, we do. Will they? We don't know. But yeah, but from my personal point of view, super excited for Starfighter.
Hmm. I think with Filoni and Lin in charge, it is they would be smart to not act like a Kevin Feige. They would be smart to have their lieutenants, because that's sort of the way.
Lucasfilm Story Group,
Yeah,
get them all together and make sure and let them do what they do.
yeah, like Mr. Charles Soule, like we spoke about, like they have had great success in both quality and continuity, and with Dave coming from the animation side and that sort of um, being critically and on the fan side well received. Um, it opens it up. It opens it up to what the next 10 years of Star Wars can be. And with Mandalorian and Grogu, I think I don't think it's going to be a massive smash hit. I think it'll do very well. I don't think it'll be a $1 billion movie, but it'll definitely be kids' first Star Wars movie that they see in the cinema that is sort of aimed more towards them. And then the year after, you have this whole new adventure opening up the world even wider. So if you're a kid, you're 6 years old, never heard of Star Wars, go and see Mando. I love that. Who's this guy? Oh, there's 3 more seasons. Oh, there's this animated show. A year later, you're filled to the brim with so much Star Wars thing to be like, whoa, fucking Ryan Gosling, because 7-year-olds know who that is. They're just excited to see.
It's Ken.
It's Ken,
Mhm.
well,
Mhm.
he's got that Ken energy. But that movie, as much as Ryan Gosling is a star, I feel like the movie's going to be very kid centric. I think Sean Levy's very good at that. He's very, can bring it back. If you watch the old Night at the Museum movies, he is good with family comedies, family drama, and I think hopefully, the fingers crossed, but it's like every movie, any movie you could be super excited for could be shade. But like, eh, I have high hopes for Starfighter.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, again, pretty much echo your sentiments all around there. I'm excited to see something that's going to be original. Is it going to be? I think it's one of those things that will get a completely original story the whole way through to have it end in such a way that it's going to be like, and now you're getting teased for what's to come. It's very much that kind of like trigger point for phase, what would this phase be, 3 4 of like Disney Star Wars. So yeah, I'm excited for it. And then in terms of like Lucasfilm's new leadership, I think it's good that we kind of have two heads for it now. Dave's very much going to be like creative, and it's great to see already he's kind of saying like he's going to allow people the space to be creative. He's not going to get bogged down with canon and that sort of thing. Yes, there needs to be continuity, but he also, I think, is very much like a, if he was a D&D player, he's doing rule of cool. He wants to see the things that make people excited, that inspire them within the stories. And yeah, I think that's what Star Wars needs right now. Yes, fan service can be annoying at times if it just feels like it's thrown in. But with Dave, that whenever he is providing fan service, it's within a narrative. It's got a point. It's not just kind of thrown at you for the sake of being thrown at you. But also there's a lots of original storytelling in there, or he draws a lot from, much like George did. He draws from what's come before, from stories, and from cinema. And yeah, like it's just sort of the perfect setup. But then you've also got the business there too, which it needs to probably be handled separately, because I feel if it had just been all placed on the one figure, like Dave, he would have been stuck being like, oh, I can only sort of manage so much at the one time, and he would have just burnt himself out. And that's probably what happened with Kathleen. She probably just by the end of his was like, I'm burnt out here, and everybody fucking hates me. I'm way on. I'm leaving it to you guys.
Would it surprise you if I said I was vehemently against Dave taking over?
Why?
So from the get-go, so you both have hit the nail on the head. Effectively, I didn't see co-presidents as a thing. I was thinking if Dave was put in charge and he was the head honcho, with the story group reporting into him, he would have had two decisions to make: yes or no. Plain and simple as that. So with having Lynn in there, it's literally a case of you've got a steady hand who goes, Dave, the business side is over here with me. There's your little story corner. You go over there and you do what you do. Like Lynn sort of came out of left field, but I don't think people realize how long Lynn is there and what Lynn actually does. I mean, Lynn is actually with ILM longer than Dave. So, that's an enormous thing. So I was vehemently against it because I was going, do we actually want George's protege? Effectively, I think in at the start, people were sort of hoping Kathy was George's protege, but she never was. She was never going to be that. And whatever people think about Kathleen Kennedy, we have stuff that she's done that we loved and stuff that we didn't. But at the end of the day, the one thing that I break it down to is Steven Spielberg chose Kathleen Kennedy. In the name of God, what right have we to say that she wasn't the one? He was the one that picked her for stuff like that. But I think now, with there being co-presidents, I think it's the right decision. As you said, if Dave had been in there on his Toblerone, we potentially wouldn't be going down the avenues that we are now.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's important now as well that he's very much like well and truly found his feet with animation. He's got to cut his teeth in live action with Mandalorian and Grogu coming out. He's sort of got to play in all the courts so far, but he is very much buoyed by the people with him, him and John Favreau. Would Mandalorian have been what it is without John being there by his side? I think he very much is a team player kind of guy. I don't think we can really look at Dave and just be like, Dave is this one man doing all the things himself. It's always him with other people around him.
Yeah, he'll lean on Favreau heavily is my expectation.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And he needs people to tell him when his hat's too small.
Yeah.
Um, Gary, on the book side, one of my favorite books from last year was The Reign of the Empire, The Mask of Fear. They announced the second book in the series, which is Edge of the Abyss,
Yeah.
um, which was an excellent cover.
Hmm.
Brings in Luthen, but also a lot of people didn't notice, brings in young Leia, it's central on the cover. Are you excited for Edge of the Abyss?
Alexander Freed is an interesting writer in that has he had a very difficult task in that he had to work around some major players within the fandom. We're talking effectively. We're not giving spoilers away here. We're talking Palpatine, Leia, Bail Organa, and a smattering of others. So he had quite a delicate balancing act to do. I personally enjoyed the book. I think the sort of consensus online from people was that some characters maybe took the gloss off each other, or that each character didn't get, let's say, enough time between the pages to sort of fully deliver on what the premise was. Now, I don't fully agree with that at all. I think Alexander is a phenomenal writer, and he really did have a delicate balancing act to do. And of course, one of the hardest things to do is to start from the beginning. This was the first of the trilogy, and coming up now is it Rebecca Rohane or Rebecca Roanhouse is writing the second one, which is no easy feat to follow along from as well. So, but for me, anything that showcases the sort of behind the scenes, let's say the military industrial complex, is a nice change of pace. One comment I actually did see about it now that my brain has actually rejigged and I haven't short circuited was that oh my God, this book was too political. And I'm sitting there going, this is Star Wars. Star Wars wasn't built on pink fluffy unicorns and a shared love of all creatures. It's one of those books that I suppose in modern society and with what we're dealing with now, it's incredibly relevant and scary as shit to say. There's some real life implications in a book that effectively can transfer into the real world.
And not say who it involves, but there's an assassination attempt um, at a point, and it's sort of a funny game of politics, how it plays out. Um, and it's just interesting in terms of who the characters are too, especially, oh, I'm not spoiling anything, but it's a lot of the characters that appear in Andor. And with Andor, like how do you follow up Andor? And they they did a good job. It's not the like spectacle that Andor is, obviously it's a TV show, but in a book form and in being the first chapter of a three-part story, I think it's really good. But then again, like you, Gary, it's my cup of tea. It's that whole thing is my cup of tea. Um, Whereas people prefer, if it was about the battle in the stars rather than the battle in the fucking in the halls of
Yeah,
just
but I mean, it's like we said, the book is a bit of a slow burner, but as you would think, a Vader hallway scene for 400 pages just does not work. So with this one, I think Alexander Freed described it as a spy novel meets a historical biography slash something else, which is a fairly accurate description. Now, a lot of people are going to look at that and go, no, not interested. But for those who like to peer back behind the curtain and see what things were like, for Mon Mothma and the likes of Bail Organa in dealing in the shadows, I thought he did a remarkable job, being honest with you.
Danny, here's the ultimate tease for you.
Okay.
Imagine Palpatine is Abraham Lincoln and Axe Mo is John Wilkes Booth.
Sold. Perfect.
Yen. We'll dive into some video game stuff just before we hit
Oh, you're breaking my heart.
the main stuff. Just a quick one. We had a quick cover reveal for Star Wars Zero Company, the new MMO, is that what they call them? RPG?
It's going to be a turn-based one, so it's similar to XCOM.
I'm an old man. Yeah, XCOM and Marvel's Midnight Suns, those sort of teams come together, making Star Wars. We chatted about it before. You sort of get to make your own squad. You can customize who the whole squad is. So if you want a squad of just droids, squad of just clones, you can, which I think is really fun. And also, it's a bit, like we said with the novel, it's a bit undercover Suicide Squad, like taking on missions that nobody else would do, which is very fun in the Star Wars universe. Gary, are you a big gamer yourself?
Huge gamer. Yeah,
Mhm.
very, very big gamer. This has been the bane of my existence in live shows for a long time because we devote an entire segment to gaming. So this year we were effectively looking at Zero Company, Galactic Racers being announced. We were hoping for an update on Fallen Order 3, which we just didn't get. And as for Star Wars Eclipse, people now think I'm out of my mind because I have resorted to creeping on the LinkedIn pages of the people who I know are working on the game to try and get updates.
Mm,
But there's a game you
mhm.
forgot about, Gary. Monopoly, Heroes and
Oh, Star
Villains.
Wars. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
who doesn't love Monopoly?
Danny, shall you be picking up? I know you enjoyed Survivor games, and the
Yes.
RPG games on the console aren't really your bag, but
Mm.
would this be able to pull you like Midnight Suns RPG games for me weren't the thing, but Midnight Suns being Marvel, it convinced me and sort of converted me into playing games like XCOM. Could this convert you over?
I'll give it a go. I'll
Hmm.
definitely give it a try. That I think that it's one of those ones that like unless it gets me in straight away, I will probably play it the once and then give up. But if I get sucked in, and again, from what the way it's been pitched in terms of like narrative and that, it's given the Republic Commando novels, which I'm all about. I love those books. So I'm kind of like if I can make like a little squad of Republic Commandos and just like do stuff with them, I might buy in. I might buy in.
You can do 5 members who all have mopeds.
Oh, sold. Okay. I know you will be.
Well, just Gary, I know you're a big fan of the Moped Gang from the Book of Boba Fett. Do you want to tell everybody else how much you love them as much as me?
I can't even put it into words. If people could see how far across the screen my arms are, that much.
You're right. You're right. Um, we'll go to the small screen before the big. Maul Shadow Lord is creeping up on us, coming out next week. When you're listening to this, Are we all excited?
Oh, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Um, it seems to be, I don't know, it's Disney plus animated Star Wars shows don't seem to get as big a push as this. Like when Bad Batch was coming out, I remember Bad Batch season two just being out one day and being like, "Oh, that's this. This is it." Shaw Metal Board. I've had a stroke. Shaw Maul Shadow Lord. The prequel comic book, which came out a few weeks ago, was getting bad reviews, but I read it and I thought it was pretty cool. Um, is a really good. It was Benjamin Percy writing it. Some beautiful art, some great, very mall light, but that's what you want because I feel like the show is going to be again like Andor, not all about Maul. He's going to be heavily featured in it, obviously, but I feel like the other characters are going to be a major part in the plot. Um, Gary, what's your take on Maul Shadow Lord?
Heavily biased on this one because my friends are doing the soundtrack, so I
Mm.
am hugely excited for this. But no, this is one I'm really looking forward to. This one will be a little bit special and some kind of things in particular that there was a lot of excitement for it at Comic-Con as well, and in breaking down some of the details that have since come out of it from Sam Witwer, who's obviously returning as Maul, which is phenomenal. And it seemed that the mandate to Filoni in the creative team was just acting, script, story, cinematography, just do everything bigger and better. And I think they've done that based on the little tidbits that I've read about and seeing the interviews with Sam Witwer. But one particular thing I'm excited for is I'm looking forward to seeing. Obviously, great to see Maul again and everything alongside the a Dark Syndicate, the underbelly of the planet. So it's set on a world called Janix, but the description is the thing that has me most excited. And I have it here. It's one part Gotham, one part Metropolis, and 100% Star Wars. So right away from me, that was me going, right, that's a visualization that you can interpret in so many ways. I'm in there. But also, Maul looking for an apprentice again, that's a win
Mhm,
in any way, shape, or form. That's a win.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I think everybody getting excited about the idea of like a Darth Talon appearing is that seems to be getting a lot of the Legends fans pretty riled up. But again, whether that happens or not, we'll just have to wait and see.
Seeing Rook Casto from Clone Wars is going to be huge.
Mhm.
I'm just excited. I'm so excited to see because I love like who if you grew up on the Phantom Menace, you're obsessed with Maul from the get-go. Like we all had the t-shirts, we all had the toys, and we followed through his story from Phantom Menace to Clone Wars to Rebels to Solo. Like see that scene in Solo just before the credits cut, and you just get to see Ray Park back again. I know hopefully he's like he'll get help he needs soon, but like to see Maul with his robot legs and standing up and igniting that double blade lightsaber again, it was like, oh my god, like what's he doing here? What's going to happen with Maul? Like, and then nothing. And we were like, oh, okay, right. Well, what do we do now? So to kind of have this gap now filled with Shadow Lord fills me with so much excitement. And again, it's going to lead nicely into, well, I hope it leads nicely into what we got in Rebels because that final moment with Maul and Kenobi in Rebels is still like one of the best pieces of Star Wars out there in my opinion. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited to see what this adds to Maul's story because we've had so much in terms of the movies, the shows, the books, the comics, and everything else. But this just fills in another nice gap within his story that I think some people might argue that we don't need it, but for me, I need it. I want it.
Yeah, and I think it'll be nice as well to see a different side of Maul because we'll get a perhaps a representation of how he feels about the Jedi technically now, but
Mhm.
also I think I seen the interview with Sam where he was talking about we will probably get a little bit of a another look back at Maul and perhaps his relationship slash feelings about Savage Opress, which is really, really good as well. But two things that I do want to highlight about this series from me, which I think sort of made me even more excited. So Sam himself had said that they tried things on this that people wouldn't believe. So Sam actually shot reference footage for complex emotional scenes so the animators could see how his eyes and expressions worked. So effectively it's almost like they've gone down the gaming route doing sort of mocap. But also from the poster and sort of what we've seen, the art style seems to be completely different to anything that we've seen before. And Joel Aaron, who was the cinematographer, I think he was in charge of lighting and VFX, he actually said that what they did was they practically made brush strokes on glass and then they captured them and strategically placed them. So basically overlay them onto the animated shots. So they will have tried a lot of different things that we haven't sort of seen before within this realm, and that's pushing it big time. And again, if that was the mandate of Filoni and they've been given free reign to do this as they please, so be it.
Yeah, I think it's cool that with Star Wars, especially with the likes of Star Wars Visions that we've had the last couple of
Yeah,
years, like the what we've been able to see and be done with Star Wars animation. Like, yes, those are like one-off stories. Well, a couple of two-parters in there now, but
yeah,
to have that variety of animation in the world of Star Wars, I think it's just going to have a real nice influence on those longer running
yep.
series as well. So yeah, it's great to hear that they're trying something new while still trying to, you know, pay respects to what came before with Clone Wars and Rebels to try and add something new to that. Fantastic, you know.
Hmm.
I would like to see sort of the birth of the Crimson Dawn. Um, some of the stuff in the comic books with Kira leading on from Solo and her sort of basically running. In the comic books, there's basically a Hail Hydra moment from the Winter Soldier where all of the insiders sort of flip inside all of the different organizations. It would be nice to see some of that in here. Um, I don't really know what the Inquisitors are going to do because usually when an Inquisitor turns up to be big and spooky, and then all of a sudden they're decapitated. But there is the Inquisitors here that we have seen before, and we know how they die. So that is nice in the fact that they're not just going to be poo-pooed away. There might actually be a bit of story with the Inquisitors. Do we feel like we're going to get an appearance from a Vader or a Palpatine?
Hmm.
I hope they don't because I think it would take the gloss off doing this first time.
Mhm.
If there's a second season, 100% go hell for leather. But people have been clamoring for Maul for a long, long time. I don't think it's something that's needed now. If there's a 10-second shot at the end of the last episode, no problem. But I hope not, but I wouldn't be surprised in some shape or form.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't think we need Vader as such because Vader's story, Vader doesn't have too much connection to Maul, really. It's more Palpatine. Like, I kind of want unresolved daddy issues.
Mm.
I wouldn't mind that sort of rearing its head. But as you say, Gary, I think it would be better for like a season two a bit further down that let him establish what he's about first and then let him resolve his daddy issues after.
What about if I could ask a question, what about the voice talent in this series, by the way? I mean, we've got Sam Witwer, we've got Steve Bloom as Icarus, Wagner Moura is there as well as Brander Lawson, and then a name everyone will be familiar with, Vanessa Marshall is recast. So
Yeah, it's Star Wars did a funny thing the other day with the gentleman who plays Lawson. You just said his name there, Gary, sorry.
Wagner Moura.
Wagner when he was at the Oscars the other day for Secret Agent and Star Wars being like, look who it is, it's Maul Star at the Oscars. And you're like, come on, guys, come
And
on.
he's apparently up for the Bond villain as of this morning, by all accounts.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Okay, okay.
I often model myself after him as Pablo Escobar.
What a
Um,
what a performance.
fantastic performance. Yeah, voice cast incredible. Um, we were talking to someone recently that we can't say yet on the
We can't talk
podcast
about just yet, but their episode will be dropping in a couple of weeks.
a couple of weeks, and they are someone who works in Star Wars that could turn up, somebody who is linked to Death Watch. We'll tell you afterwards, Gary, but
Yeah.
that that was a funny interaction. When you all of the episodes for Maul will have dropped by the time that person's interview drops.
Mhm.
So if it does happen, Danny, we
Yeah, you heard
have
it from us first.
heard, but they will have seen it first.
Yeah,
We got
yeah,
we we got a scoop in reverse.
yeah.
Um, Hello. One of the criticisms I do see about this show is, are we seeing too much of Maul, like his whole life? Like people are saying, what more story is there left to tell with Maul? Is there more story to tell with Maul?
I think so. Like I said, it's filling a gap that I wanted filled.
Mhm,
That gap between the end of Solo, well, sort of just before Solo, and then maybe a bit after Solo too. I wouldn't mind that. I want that filled. I want to know how he gets to the point he's at in Rebels. Like, how does he become that kind of hermitesque but
mhm,
still out for vengeance? Whereas at the end of Clone Wars, like he's already kind of found his footing by sort of taking on Mandalore, and then he's going into that crime syndicate world. I mean, Adam, you and I are always gushing about how much we want to see more of like the dark underbelly of Star Wars, that crime
mhm,
syndicate. I mean, Skeleton Crew gave us the whole other side of that with pirates, but we want to see the darker, seedier underside of Star Wars, and I feel like Maul Shadow Lord's going to give us that. So not only are we getting more Maul, and that's fine by me, but we're getting more of that dark underbelly of Star Wars, which is also something that I would love to sup of.
mhm,
I think people need to look at the bigger picture as well. Like we'll be so focused on Maul here that we won't see what Filoni is going to hit us in the face with here, or is just behind the curtain. There's always method to the madness. They're not pushing this the way that they are without it either leading to something major or it continuing into something else entirely.
mhm,
Friend of mine, for some reason, I don't know why, he's still adamant. His thing is we might see Maul in something like Starfighter, depending on the timeline. Nobody knows. That's one of his. So I
mhm.
don't know. There's always method to the madness.
Gary, is there an animated show in your head you would like to see that they haven't touched upon?
In terms of something that they haven't done,
Yeah, just something like something if Filoni was to come out tomorrow and say,
Plo Koon origin story.
"Oh well,
There we go. And I'm sure Dave would be like, "Yep."
7 seasons."
Yeah, no, Plo Koon origin story. My favorite Jedi. Like
Mhm,
I think that's and obviously it's somebody who's particularly important to Dave. Or could they go down the route and give us a Trapper Wolf animated series so Dave gets to do himself in animation?
mm.
Again, I see him being all over that. I feel like you're just trying to rub Dave's ego with these
Now you're
answers.
learning. Now you're learning. That's exactly what I'm trying to do.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
think with the, do you remember the Rangers of the New Republic show?
Mhm.
That was meant to happen. That has animated show written all over it. That is like
Is it too
pure.
similar to Resistance? So
Just don't make it as kiddie. Like,
Anime.
yeah, like I'm watching Resistance at the minute, and for as much as I am enjoying it, it is one of those ones where the stories are so light that you watch 5 episodes in a row and you're like, those 5 episodes, the exact same thing happened in each episode, apart from like every now and then there's like a new sort of twist on a character. It's a fun show and it's a show that delves into a world like we're saying that I would want to see more of, sort of, sequel era that's not based around any of the main guys. Um, but a Rangers of the New Republic, um, I think you have the talent there. I think if they wanted to bring back Cara Dune, I know it's a dodgy subject, but like she was cleared of what the thing, like what she was talking shade about, and if they did want to bring her back, animated might be the way to do that, even if you recast her. You know what I mean? It's not beyond impossible.
Yeah. While we're on animation, though, definitely just have to say for anyone who's tuning in, if you haven't watched Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures, you are missing out. It is genuinely one of the best animated shows I have ever seen. And I'm saying that as an adult. I don't care. The show is phenomenal. I mean, how many Emmy wins has it gotten now at this stage for an animated series? It's nuts.
Mhm.
It's one that I keep meaning to get on. I haven't got onto it
G-
yet, but I want
Genuinely,
to.
people thought I was nuts when I said it the first time. I was like, sit down and watch this. And we got comments going, this show is actually legit. And I'm like, yeah, it is actually that good, which is scary.
Mhm.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is that coming from a High Republic fan, Gary? You're just like,
It's more coming as a D. Bradley Baker fan, to be honest,
mm,
because like even D as Nubs just has so much heart, even though it's Nubs, like it's
mm,
just a character that technically doesn't speak, but you just end up loving the little guy.
mm,
Yeah, sure. It's the same with him as Morph in Treasure Planet. Watched that again the other day and was just like, oh, I love Treasure Planet so much. But yeah, him just making wee random cutesy noises as Morph is
And
so
most people
endearing.
don't realize he was Nix in Star Wars Outlaws as well.
mm.
Hmm. Yep. Yep.
The Star Wars Outlaws book, Gary, just real quick. Did you read it?
No, I that's one that is on my list to get through that, and I was going to read the Maul comic, but I'm leaving that until after the show comes out. I
Mhm,
want to do it the opposite way this time.
mhm.
But no, it is on my list though. That's the one with Mr. Not Mr. Bones on the cover. It's what's the
N
droid's name?
N9, ND9,
And
ND.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um. Oh fuck! Imagine a Mr. Bones book. There's a
Hmm.
book.
there's one.
Uh,
Yeah,
that's a book that I really struggled with in terms of I loved the game. I loved those characters. A lot of the stuff should have been my bread and butter. Just couldn't click with it.
same with the game for a lot of people.
Mhm. Yeah. That's a game I wish had a second go. I think they could have done a lot, and because there's a lot of really impressive stuff in that game.
It was
Um,
beautiful.
yeah, yeah, just like me and Danny always say, just walking about Tatooine, just
Having the best time.
yeah, just
Hmm.
having a wee dander. It's like, oh, I'll go place a buck. I'll go put a bet on the horses. It's like,
Yeah.
what do you want from a Star Wars game? Um, but speaking of
I'm
speaking
like,
of,
how are you going to segue this? How
I
are you
I
doing
was
it?
like, speaking of Tatooine, but it's like, don't go to Tatooine. Speaking of Star
They
Wars,
might.
um, the Mandalorian and Grogu movie
Yeah.
comes to theaters May 22nd, I believe. Um, are we all excited? Is the promotion? I was in the shop the other day and there was a pack of Quavers for Grogu on it. That's how you know the hype's real. Gary, are you hyped?
I am hyped. You literally took the words out of my mouth right at the beginning of the sort of segment where we think it's going to be a hit, but just how big it's going to be, we don't know. So the main sort of takeaway or the main hope that I have is that it can't just feel like an extended episode of Mando and Grogu. I do not think that will work. Um, Obviously we have huge faith in Filoni and Favreau to deliver. It's the film with the smallest budget ever of a big screen production. I think it was about 166 million, give or take. We mentioned Toy Story. I don't think anything is going to touch Toy Story 5 this year in terms of being a big hitter. I think that's going to be the number one movie in terms of a take. Hugely excited for Mando and Grogu. It's nice that we are in uncharted territory and we get to see two characters develop in an enormous way. This was such a huge world building series that became a behemoth that everyone just seemed to fall in love with and left us wanting more. And now we have it on the big screen as a totally different beast, which it has to be. It's funny. I remember people sort of got pissed off at the Super Bowl commercial, and people didn't realize it was a piss take of the Budweiser horses Clydesdale ad. I mean, people genuinely thought this was something serious, and it's like I think that showed how serious people are taking this and just how much they wanted to see. But with some of the things I've seen online, people just want the whole story from the get-go. They literally want to know the plot details and any Easter eggs before it comes out. Like, sit down and have some patience. Christ almighty.
Yeah, that's the issue nowadays. It's just, so many trailers and stuff and so many leaks and articles and everything that come out beforehand. They're just serving it all on a plate. There's no real excitement or build up the way there used to be. I think there is for us as the fans that we are. Like we want that. We want to be excited about the thing. We want to be surprised. We don't want the spoilers. But so many people are the complete opposite now. They just want it there and then, straight away. Do it in a 1 minute long TikTok, and they're satisfied. But I'm buzzing for it. Like I think it's, what we've seen so far from the trailers has been enough for me without giving too much away. The most recent trailer kind of giving us a bit more of a plot point with, Mando taking on the Rebel Alliance, or sorry, the New Republic's deck of cards. I think that's an interesting concept because it got me thinking about, do you remember after 9/11 and there was like the Americas like playing cards with all their
Yeah.
like top targets, and it just got me thinking about that, and I was like, is that a good thing for the New Republic to have? Is this going to be a bit kind of like Rogue One and Andor, where there's maybe like a bit of a seedier side to the whole operation? I
Hmm.
think that's an interesting idea kind of going into it with, and just to see like like, all the different beasties we've got in a man, we've got, the creature from the what do you call? It's just gone out of my head. The game, the at the bar, which has a nice little tribute to
To Carl
yeah, Carl
Weathers. Yeah.
Weathers. Yeah, you've got that there, but the creature that appears there is from the hologram Creek Beach State. It's just gone out of my head. What do you call the game that Chewbacca plays?
Oh, from the
Uh,
board game from
yeah,
jeez, it's the one I can never house. I was about to say Dvorak. It's not. It's it'll come to me.
Hollow chess.
We'll
Yeah,
call it Hollow Chess. Yeah.
yeah, Holocha. Yeah, let the Wookiee win. But yeah, like to see one of those is fantastic. It looks like there's going to be a lot of practical effects and puppetry and stop motion in there too, which is really exciting. And yeah, just everything about it. It's again, like I mentioned earlier, there is fan service, but it looks like it's going to be fan service with a purpose. And I can really dig that, and I'm excited to see just it looks to be blending this remnant empire with the dark seedy underbelly of Star Wars that I want to see by having the huts and having the Amanaman's and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm pumped for it. I'm just hoping that the goddamn Belfast IMAX screen is fixed by then because I want to see an IMAX. And that's the other thing that I think is going to add to the overall experience is the is going to be the IMAX experience of it. That's what's going to level up from what we've seen on the TV so far. Where he's showing us, Gary, you've just brought up, for those listening, Gary has just brought up a board of, is this like ideas or these notions and thoughts for
So
Mandalorian and Grogu?
this is what forms part of our conversations when we break down things.
Mm.
Okay, okay. Nice. A nice mood board.
I love that it says chicky nuggies at the top.
Yeah.
That's because there are apparently a section of the fandom who are adamant that the macaroons are actually CGI'd, and in the film he will be eating chicken nuggets.
Fuck. That'd be good. That'd be the like imagine synergy and the nuggets become minions.
Yep.
Mm.
Come on, Disney, do it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. Do you remember whenever episode one came out and they had the lollipops that were Jar Jar's tongue?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why aren't we getting Seb's toes? And
Quentin Tarantino's already bought them all.
him and Dave's hot chicken.
Yeah.
Oh, imagine that as a combo. Good lord.
Yeah.
That'll bring the color back to your cheeks.
Do you think we will ever get the push that the Phantom Menace got in this in terms of merch ever again?
there, there's so much potential for it, but I just don't
Tariffs.
feel.
Tariffs.
Well,
Hmm.
tariffs, yeah, and also Hasbro just don't have like they don't have that desire to sell to kids anymore. Like it's
Mhm.
all about the collector's market now. It's all Black Series, it's all
High-end
vintage collection.
collectors.
Yeah, and like what is available for kids now is shite. Like
Yep.
Mm.
compared to what we had growing up, it's all
Hmm.
shite.
Like you see all the Grogu toys coming out. A lot of them are more statues and collectibles. I have seen the collection of plushes that are all the Anzellans, all the
Hmm.
wee Baby Frick dudes. Fuck, I want all of them. Like,
You need the full set of four.
do you know the photo of David Lynch on a sofa and he has like six Woody Woodpeckers
Mhm.
and they called them all his sons? I want that to be me
With
from
the
the
Anzelians.
Anzellans.
We'll make it happen, I promise.
Hell yeah. But yeah, it's a like you don't have to convince me to spend money on Star Wars, but like it's April basically. The movie's out next month. I can't go into Forbidden Planet tomorrow and pick up a Sigourney Weaver figure. I have to wait until the start of May. This shit should have been out start of the year.
The
Give
mall
me
ones have started dropping a couple of weeks ago already.
Yes, I seen those. I was in the other day and seen the vintage collection for the new shows. But there should have been lots. Like he's on a packet of quavers. He should have been on fucking buses. Like, do you remember when The Force Awakens came out? You could get BB-8 fucking oranges.
Hmm.
Give me that shit. Give me it. I
Yeah.
don't care. But Disney has the money. Give me it.
There's our proper Force Friday, you know?
Yeah, I
Mm.
think it's a conscious effort to actually push people towards the cinema in that the big screen is something that they've been slacking on.
Mhm.
And I think that's a big push towards it now. The merchandise will come, let's be honest, with the amount of IPs and vendors that they work with, they can click their fingers tomorrow and drop 100 products if they wanted. There's absolutely no issue there. But trying to get hutts and seats, that's a totally different ball game. I think though, piggybacking on what you're saying there, the one sort of added value of this is coming into it, as we said, it's out in April. We know absolutely nothing about this storyline, and I absolutely love that.
Yeah, it's the trailer's definitely hiding a lot. With Favreau sort of being the main director, obviously behind this, and it's his story. Um, he has made he has made bad movies. I'll say that, Favreau, but at least they're entertaining. Like a Cowboys and Aliens isn't a fantastic movie, but at least it's entertaining. Um, but I think with this, and also he's had a proven track record with the actual TV show itself. I don't think anybody's gonna come out of this and say that was terrible. The worst
No.
they'll say is that was another episode. Like that, you're gonna get the dickheads. They're gonna be like, "Oh, that should have been on Disney Plus." I think Favreau is very much aware of that. Very much aware that he needs to push the boat out, and he's not going to show you the big bombastic scene. The AT-AT falling off the mountain is the most like bombastic scene you see in the whole thing, but we're going to get so much more than that, and that's exciting. What I do want though is a PS2 tie-in game, like, and let the universe heal.
A PS2 tie-in game? We're
Yep,
going back?
not
We're taking it
PS5,
right back to the
PS2.
PS2? Yeah,
Again,
okay.
and it
Okay.
goes back to that retro and nostalgia feel, and that's literally the one thing that I think has been missing, and it's the one thing we all clamber for is that feeling of nostalgia and being a kid again. I mean, the three of us are already big bleeding kids as it is, but that's just what we want.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because then I also seen in America they have McDonald's toys coming out, and they have a Seb, and I'm just hoping it turns up unfinted because I'll be I'll
Huh?
be buying.
You'll be getting it. They won't
Etsy
have
job.
them here. We'll be getting like you'll get your tie-in Happy Meal book, and that's it.
I didn't want Joey from Friends. I wanted Seb. Um, so that's sort of it for news. Gary, if you don't mind, let's
Yep.
delve into some of your interview history. Not history as in like specific interviews, but just an overview and like, is there anybody? Oh, here's one. Who's the best crack you've had with someone from the Star Wars universe, and who is someone that has been your golden goose that you just cannot get? Jimmy Smits.
Yeah, Jimmy Scissorhands. Do you know what? We've been sort of lucky in that our interviews, it probably sounds a little bit off for considering what we do, but in terms of interviewing like the big, massive, major stars, not something that really interests us. We've sort of focused on people who work behind the scenes, whether it is directors of photography, concept artists, prop makers, painters, builders, designers, things like that. That's our jam. That's what we're into. One of the best interviews I have had in quite a long time is by a guy called Judah Escalante. He was effectively the one of the head. He was basically the head prop builder on the Ahsoka series and a numerous bunch of others. Just an incredibly talented guy, and very open, very honest, and just one of those people. When he went into work every morning, he loved every second of it, and it rubbed off on everyone. So that was sort of one of the more fun ones, and I think it's still one of our most listened to as well. Probably, I want to say about 2,500 listens, something like that. It was a really, really good episode. We did a two-parter with him, and one I can probably drop is to say, hopefully, coming up, we will have him and another together as a dual episode, which will be nice as well. That's one that's hopefully in the pipeline. In terms of the actual Golden Goose, I would love to sit down with Tim Zahn, just for the
Mm-hmm.
simple reason you created the character that I am most fascinated with above all else. Somebody who has is not force sensitive, is not a force user, has nothing special about him other than he is incredibly intelligent and he has tactical prowess like no one else within the fandom. And effectively, it's no mean feat to say Tim Zahn effectively saved Star Wars because while there were so many gaps, we got the Thrawn novels, and that was literally, I think, what kept the fire going, and it eventually bridged the gap until it eventually got back on track and moved into this behemoth that it is now. So Tim Zahn would definitely be the golden goose. I've been lucky to meet him, but I've never gotten the chance just to sit down and have a just a real in-depth chat. But being honest, it probably bore the shite out of people because I'd go into the ethics and morality of using a culture's own history against them. So it'd be a real deep dive discussion. But that would definitely be the golden goose for me, absolutely.
Hmm.
Nice.
And do you get offered red carpets? Say if they came to you and were like Mando and Grogu, red carpet, you could get Pedro. Would that interest you, or is that just not your bag?
It would interest me, but I would put it this way: it wouldn't have to be a red carpet event. One comment that was brought up about us before, when we're doing interviews, it sounds like three people sitting in a room having a cup of tea on the couch.
Mhm.
It wouldn't have to be on a red carpet. I would be more than happy to do an interview anywhere. One I will drop. We had an interview with somebody. I'm not going to name names. It's an Irish guest, but people will probably figure out who it was. And we had to do the interview with cameras off because he couldn't reveal where he was, but I knew exactly where he was. So us trying to dance around I can say it now. He was on the Andor set, I think, while it was being recorded. So how we had to dance and pirouette around that was quite an interesting feat. So yeah, things like that. Wherever we have to do the interviews, we don't mind. I mean, like yourselves, we'll sit and do them over Zoom, or we'll sit in a cafe, which we have done many a time, just chatting and shooting the breeze. So red carpet, while interested, I'd much prefer to have a not a non-scripted chat, but I like to be able to sit down and talk to people without having questions flagged all of the time.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of our favorites was chatting with Brendan Wayne, and he just was like tooling about his house and showed us his dogs.
He's
And I was
amazing.
like, yeah, I was like, I'm having a wonderful time. This dude is just chatting to us and just sort of shooting the shit. Like
Yep,
there was no, as you say, no like having questions flagged or no
he's
like
lovely. He's sound.
sticking to stuff.
Hmm.
He's such a, yeah, just such a laid back dude. And I think that's what, much like yourself, we try to achieve with our chats. It's just like, just a bunch of dudes talking Star Wars, you know?
You guys should try get Latif as well. He's really, really nice.
Well,
We're trying.
let's just
We're
say, Gary,
trying.
that the Mandalorian actors are hard people to pin down.
Yeah.
I
They're
know.
game, but hard to pin down.
Yeah.
I know. Last September, I was sat in a hotel with two of them. So, and a certain frog lady, which was interesting.
They're the most ADHD cast members.
They're such nice guys, though. It's not
Oh
even
yeah.
Mm,
funny just how lovely
yeah.
they are.
Oh,
Yeah, it's one of those things we have spoke to two officially, three coming up. Um and they are it's like infectious how lovely they are. Which is always a surprise because like you want to be like, you are a big actor. You're on one of the biggest shows in the world. And they're just like, yeah, come on, let's just talk about what we had for breakfast.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Brendan Wayne just cracking into Slim Jims where we're talking to them. Like, this is the
Hmm.
most American thing ever.
Mad as a box of frogs.
Oh, yeah.
Lovely guy,
Fantastic, though.
though.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We said to him, because about coming over to Ireland, and he was like, absolutely. But you could see it in his eyes. He was like, yes, if I could come tomorrow, I would be there.
Hmm.
Um, Whenever it comes to getting guests, is it is it with Blabba being such a long running show, is it easier now than it was in the past?
It probably is easier in the sense that word of mouth travels quite fast. Like these people operate in similar circles. So, for example, I've had interviews where we've just chatted away and someone would say, this was great. You should interview my friend, blah blah blah. Do you want their details? And I'm just like, yeah, cool. Great, no problem. So it did open doors for us. It's tough going though. The one thing that sort of will get you down at times is, and I don't know kind of how far along the trail you guys are, but when you start doing, let's say, the official interviews on certain topics, you will have to submit your questions through official channels where everything gets flagged and you get the go ahead for X or you don't get the go ahead for Y. And but at the same time, you might get some people going, I'll sit down and do an interview. Like I don't give a shit. So it's a little bit of both. But yeah, it has become easier. But I think that's more so that we've just been known as a no trouble interview, if that makes sense. We literally sit down, hit record, and shoot the breeze. Basically, that's literally it. We're not doing anything special other than just sitting down, talking to people. There's genuinely no secret formula to what we're doing. Yes, there are podcasts who are out there who get these enormous guests and their editing values are through the roof, but we're not trying to make a full-time career out of this. We just like sitting talking to people for the love of it. That's basically it.
Hmm. So you're
Yeah.
telling me that you're not interested in moving to California and doing all the TikToks and
Definitely not, because most of the movie stuff has moved out of California now. It
Mm,
is either Canada or the UK, and the reason I know that is people who have worked on the films and series who have become friends, they've lost out on a lot of jobs.
mm,
Like somebody in particular who I'll mention, I won't name names, who has won multiple major awards, wasn't asked to work on certain productions.
mm.
Mm.
So take take from that what you will.
Yeah. Where
Mhm.
I work in Belfast, like if I look out the back window of my work, I can currently see How to Train a Dragon 2 being filmed, and that's insane.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's crazy.
It could be nice to get a Star Wars show in Ireland, wouldn't it?
Hmm.
Imagine.
Be nice.
That'd be delightful.
Do you remember
Yeah.
when they were going to film Blade Runner, the TV show over here? I wanted to be an extra just so I could get an outfit.
It fell through, didn't it?
I felt
Yeah,
I was all the COVID stuff and then the strikes and stuff. I had a
Yeah.
mate who was going to be doing AD work on it, and he was all geared up, and because he would be doing the AD work that handles like the crowds and stuff, the extra crowds. And I was like, "You better get me in on that. I will wear whatever translucent outfit you want me to wear. I want to be on Blade Runner." But then it was like I was pulled out from under everybody, so that was a shame. But hey, who knows? Maybe Star Wars will venture back over to our aisle someday and take up production in Belfast. That'd be nice. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Talking about the future of Star Wars, Gary, you recently did a panel talk at
Yep.
Dublin Comic Con
Hmm.
all about what's to come for Star Wars. You wanna give us the like abbreviated podcast version of your talk?
Yeah, so we sort of broke it into five main topics. So we termed it the elephant in the room changes at the top. So that was where we referred to the hierarchy changes between Disney and then Lucasfilm following suit. Um, we asked Mando and Grogu, is this the way? That's pretty self-explanatory. Big screen updates, are there any? Of which, apart from Starfighter, we got some little bits of nuggets from Kathleen Kennedy about things that were coming up, and apart from that, we didn't get too much. Small screen updates, we obviously had them. We know what's happening with Maul. We know what's happening with Star Wars Visions, and we're obviously full speed ahead going towards Ahsoka season 2. And then the bane of my existence, the last segment we just titled "Gaming." Who knows at this point? So we sort of broke it into the hierarchy, the big screen, small screen, and gaming. We didn't even touch the literature this year because there's just so many releases. We could have done an entire 2 hour segment just on what's to come regards the literature. But obviously the big highlight was Maul, and then moving full speed ahead towards Mando and Grogu, which uh, I would love to get your thoughts on one of these points which we raised. This seemed to be quite a a hot topic of debate among the people we had in the room. So these were our biggest questions, of which I'm hoping at some point when Mando and Grogu comes out that you two are going to come on our show and we're going to have a real in-depth discussion about what's come. But I'll leave
Mhm.
you with these questions to ponder over, and then when we meet up again at some point, we can go through this. So, you mentioned the deck of cards. So, what mission has Mando been hired for?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is Thrawn's shadow going to be lurking behind the scenes?
Mm.
Rolla the Hutt, friend or foe?
Hmm.
Or
Who
lover.
it
I love
or that?
it.
Well, considering it's Jeremy Allen, who's a fine-looking human being, we
Mm.
would say yes.
Mhm.
Who is the main villain?
Hmm. Hmm.
How big a part will Zeb play? And then we were trying to identify some of the planets. So we're suspecting the likes of Hoth, we know, is pretty much everyone's seeing that scene where Grogu was sitting meditating on everyone is moving towards Dagobah, but it's probably somewhere like Nal Hutta or things of that nature. So out of all those questions there, is there one that you're sort of most excited to find out, or
I like the idea of the hut thing because obviously we get the twins from the Book of Boba Fett
yeah.
there, so that gives me an inkling that we're maybe going to maybe glimpse Tatooine.
Hmm.
And does that kind of maybe tie, maybe not necessarily Boba Fett being there, but some sort of tie in to Book of Boba Fett as well? But Root of the Hut, I think it'll be interesting to see how his character ties into it, especially because I mean, gladiatorial combat in Star Wars can't wait. The first time we got a notion of gladiatorial combat was, or gladiatorial combat in Star Wars was Attack of the Clones, but then also the opening scene in the Bounty Hunter game with Jango Fett. So I love that imagery of
Hmm.
like gladiatorial arenas in Star Wars. So yeah, the Road to the Hut stuff's very exciting. So yeah, that's probably for me. Probably for
Yeah.
me is how does Rota tie into it?
What about you, Adam? What's sort of tickling your fancy regards to that?
Seb being involved, I know he was in the show, but if you're including Seb, are you including other Rebels characters? Obviously, Ahsoka and Sabine are off universe in a different place, but it leaves Hera. And does it sort of, are we going to go down the Rogue One aspect again and have a Leia appearance? Well, I seen Sigourney Weaver talking that her character is friendly with Leia and has known Leia for years. Is that just an offhand comment and a story that her and Dave have come up with, or is that something more? Um, because
I personally think she's part of like a trinity. So there was Leia, Mon Mothma, and I think Ward as well now is going to play a role in that set, like the architects of the rebellion or New Republic, if you like, whatever way you prefer to think of it as.
I really enjoy the comic books, and I know she's not a popular character with a lot of people, but I think she's great. But like Laura Dern's Holdo,
Yeah.
um, her in the comic books is a lot of fun because she is basically the ultimate spy. She is
Hmm.
like undercover for a lot of the New Republic stuff, and that's interesting to me. I think that sort of the New Republic is fun, and I think in Ahsoka and Mando season three, where you sort of have the transition between people who worked for the Empire coming to work for the New Republic, and they have like the little badges to be like, I used to be a bad guy, don't treat me bad. Um, and it clearly not working. Like obviously the First Order, but clearly from the beginning there's rot in this New Republic. Um, that's an interesting aspect, especially if we're going to have the Shadow Council or whoever they are. That's a fun aspect that I hope is involved. And like you say, is Thrawn involved in that? That would be the tits. That's just like that's the cherry on top to be like, oh, is the new movie bad guy gonna be Thrawn? Because it could be.
Looking at basically moving towards heir to the Empire.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mhm.
That would be fun. Are we
Yeah.
gonna get Mara Jade? Is Mara Jade Amy Adams in Starfighter? These are rumors that go around online, but is it just fanboys wanking? Yes.
Could be both.
Why not both? Why not both?
But just thanks for joining us, Gary. Like you say, we'll join you for a fun chat
Oh
post.
yeah, I'm holding you to that absolutely, and we'll go even
100%.
further off the rails once we know where we stand, once Maul has come out and we know where Mando and Grogu is.
Hmm
Oh, we'll be fanboying real hard in there.
yeah, like I get, as of today, I get paid tomorrow, and have already stuff in my basket on Amazon to buy for the Mando movie. They're like, we re-released a whole load of t-shirts. And I'm like, did you? Someone's getting a new wardrobe. Um, so yeah, super hyped for it. And who makes sweets? Natal. Natal, get on suckable Sebtos. It's a market that you, it's, you need to get behind.
Endorsed by Quentin Tarantino.
Hmm.
But Gary, thanks for joining us so much. Um, where can people find your wares, sir?
You can find us at Blabba the Hutt across all social media. We haven't got too many live shows lined up at the moment. There might be one or two coming further down the line. We're just waiting to see how a couple of bits and bobs come into place. We have got a couple of interviews which we are due to record, but for red tape reasons, we just haven't gotten around to that yet. But yeah, at Blabba the Hutt across all our social media, you'll find us. And just to say thank you to you guys as well. As I said, you've hit that milestone now. So it's for you guys, it's just going to be a matter of keep pushing and, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. What you're doing is clearly working. You've already mentioned that you're barely, a young podcast, and you've already thrown the name Brandon Wayne in as being one of the Mandos. So just continue what you're doing. And again, it's great to see more Star Wars on the scene from the island of Ireland. So long may that continue.
Danny, surely there's nothing coming to Ballymena.
Oh, Adam, you would be so wrong. For on Saturday, the 18th of April, Ballymena will be invaded by the Fright Club NI with Strange and Unusual, a celebration of science fiction and horror. That's right. We have 20 vendors, artists, authors, a tattoo studio, an art exhibition, and special guests Hugh Spite, Hugh Ross, and Louisa Guerrero all joining us for a very special day. That is, as I say, a celebration of science fiction and horror. And that evening will also be screening Clive Barker's Nightbreed, and Hugh Ross, who stars as Narcissus in the film, will be doing a Q&A beforehand. So be sure to join us. But obviously, being a Star Wars podcast, we should probably mention that Hugh Spite, who's making an appearance, is one of the Gamorrean guards in Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi. And hey, linking it back to our guest, Blabba, Jabba the Hutt.
Bring your Gammy Guard figures. Get them signed.
Get them signed. Get them signed.
But that's all from us. Thank you everybody from listening. The usual. We're on. We've got modern, Danny. We're on Threads. We're on Blue Sky, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and also your mom's favorite, Facebook.
Yeah.
But join us next week for more fun and shenanigans in the stars. And as always, we have friends everywhere. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye bye.
What kind of Irish is your granddad? What kind of Irish is your gramps? Is he this? Come here to me. Which one of you little gobshites threw a heap of fruits at my window? You better tell me, because I know you're that, and I know you're that, and I know you're that. What kind of Irish is your granddad? Is he this? So that's a picture of me back in '82 on the 12th for the King William Lodge. And they can all they want to ban it, sure, isn't it desperate? What kind of Irish is your granddad? Easy this. I'll bring them round the back. I'll put formal shoes on and don't worry about it. If I'm a grand man for the shoes, I'll hit the short of any man's back. Bastard. What kind of Irish is your granddad? Easy this. To groan you will each after sulla, ugly or malim or garda. Gwil a finis the golnus panic. Skirted rigger gull. Oh, Roshida, oh, Roshida,